Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers win another series, taking down the Giants. Clayton Kershaw looked good. We'll get into him and what it means for the future. We'll get into some comments from Dave Roberts on guys resetting and where we're at this point of the season, and then finish off with some talk about magic numbers, what they mean, and how close the Dodgers are to clinching a bunch of things. So that's what's on tap. So make sure to keep it Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Vroom. With Vroom, you can buy a car entirely online and have it delivered straight to you, so you never have to go to a dealership again. So next time you need to buy a car, just grab your phone, go to vroom.com, and check out thousands of great cars. This is Locked On Dodgers, and we are the smart fans' perspective on your boys in blue, here for you every weekday morning, Monday through Friday. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the Dodgers in a variety of ways, continue to cover the Dodgers in a variety of ways, one of those ways being this podcast here, where we come at you every weekday morning. This is your first time listening or watching. You can find us where we find podcasts simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers, and subscribe in all those places and make it easy on yourself and never miss a day, because you know we're not going to. We're going on season 3 of never missing a day, covering the Dodgers. So we're here for you, like I said, every weekday morning, and that's literal. And the Dodgers are seemingly winning almost every weekday at this point. They lost on Monday, but they won on Tuesday, won on Wednesday. Early game at Dodger Stadium, 99 degrees at first pitch. Clayton Kershaw didn't seem bothered by it. And the Dodgers won the game, won the series, and continue their dominance over the Giants this season.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. After the game, Trey Turner was asked about the weather, and he actually said he likes the hot weather. He said, I don't like to be sweaty when I'm walking around in street clothes, but when I'm in a baseball uniform, I kind of like to be sweaty. It feels good, you know? And he said the only real impact of the heat, besides the ball flying more, was that the infield gets a little bit harder. So it makes it, maybe he has to be a little bit more careful just standing out there for 9 innings, and also when the ball's hit to him, that it's going to carry a little bit differently. But I had never thought about it that way, but I realized, yeah, I don't mind being sweaty when I'm in a sweat situation, like, you know, an athletic event. But you know, it's the rest of the time that I'm sweating that I don't like that much, you know? So yeah, I imagine that this game was probably more fun for the players than for the fans, because fans are just watching a game. You don't want to be sweating then, but when you're playing, sure, go ahead and sweat.
Yeah, it's been a different type of heat in LA this last week or so too with this heat wave. It's been a little bit humid, not quite East Coast or the South humid, but it's been pretty humid. I don't have many sporting events anymore where I'm actually participating, so yeah, I will avoid sweating at all times if possible. Although that's pretty much impossible because I sweat in a snowstorm. But we're not here to talk about sweat. We're here to talk about Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw specifically. He went 6 innings. He gave up 2 runs. One of those a home run, and yeah, he looked good. Second start back from injury, and had all 3 pitches working and looked pretty good. And you know, was asked a lot about October, and a lot of the stuff toward Kershaw is about October and being healthy. And you know, he basically said, "I'm healthy till I'm not at this point, and I feel great." He said he's felt great. The backs felt good, and we can only hope that continues on here in the next 5 weeks or so.
Yeah, I don't know. You're what, 31 now? I don't know if you quite feel that statement as much as I do. I'm healthy until I'm not. As a 45-year-old overweight man, I definitely get that. Yeah, I feel good until I don't. And then when I don't feel good, I really don't feel good. You know, Clayton Kershaw is only 34, but that's pretty old by baseball standards, at least middle-aged. And so I can feel that when he says that. And, you know, he's only made 30 starts in a season. Hasn't made 30 starts in the season since 2015. And, you know, 2014, he also didn't. So only once in the last 9 seasons has he made 30 starts in a year. I think 2020, the shortened season, is the only year since 2015 that he didn't spend any time on the injured list. And so it's understandable that for him, you know, it's just kind of a realistic answer. He's like, I'm a world-class athlete and I feel great right now, but I know from experience that sometimes my body likes to screw up. And, some of the parallels to last year can be a little bit nerve wracking. Simply, last year, almost exactly a year ago, Kershaw came off the injured list. The plan was for him to get a handful of starts so that he could then be ready for the postseason. And then his arm blew out in his final start of the regular season, and he missed the whole postseason. And now he's coming back from the injured list. The plan is for him to make a handful of starts so he can be ready for the postseason. The thing that gives me hope, the big difference is last year he was coming off an arm injury when he came off the IL. This time it's a very minor back injury that, according to him, his back has been fine since a week after he left that start in San Francisco, which means we're coming up on a month now that he's been feeling fine. And so the Dodgers were extra cautious, which I'm 1,000% in favor of and thankful for that they were extra cautious, even because, hey, he's on the injured list. Let's use this as an opportunity to save some bullets because, and really just bring him back with just enough time to get ready for October. And hopefully that wisdom, that prudence will pay off. And he's not coming off an arm injury this time. It's just a little back thing. And so hopefully what we're going to have is a healthy Kershaw in October. But yeah, I mean, like him, I can only have cautious optimism. I can't be totally optimistic because, we've been along this ride with him for the last 9 years of him getting hurt a lot. And luckily he had already basically sealed his first ballot Hall of Fame status before the injury bug hit him. But when he's on the mound, he's outstanding. And all we can do is hope that he can keep coming out to the mound.
Yeah, and that's all we can ask for, and that's really all there is left for Kershaw. I mean, he talked about it. He said, "I just want to pitch good leading into October. You want to be part of it." That's why I came back. That's why everybody wants to be on this team. It's a special group, and we got a chance to do something special. I'm excited, and I hope to get that chance this year. And we know that's what he's here for. Realistically, the regular season for him, he's realized at this point, and he's eased up off the super intense competitor that he was, at least in terms of like the day he pitches. We've seen him ease up on that. We've seen him ease up in general. We've seen him be, do some interviews in the dugout where he's shown more personality. He's realized everything that it is, and whether that would have happened with or without the 2020 World Series, obviously we can't really tell for sure. But I think it's been part of, that's obviously been part of it. But it's also just part of he's realized the 162 games, those are for the fans. Those are for, accolades, personal accolades and everything else. But when it really comes down to it, it's about October. And, he's someone that knows that very well just for the fact that he's been, criticized for his Octobers. And he's one of the best, some people call him one of the best regular season pitchers instead of just one of the best pitchers of all time. And, I know he's got to feel that, but he's also realized that, the regular season is fun and fine. And that's how you get to October. But what you really want to be part of and have your strength is for October. And, he's in a good spot with the Dodgers now where he doesn't – before he had to pitch 30 times in order for the Dodgers just to make it to October or in order for the Dodgers to have a chance. Now he can pitch 15, 20 times a year, probably for the next 3-4 years, assuming, he's relatively healthy and only misses time here and there. And it's to probably still be a really good pitcher. And, that might be the route he's going toward, or like you said, they might win this year and he might retire. There's a lot of different ways for him. But it's just, good to see Kershaw knowing what's at stake, knowing what he's doing, and kind of figuring things out.
Yeah, one of the best illustrations of that more mellow mindset is this game on Wednesday. He came out of the game after 6 innings and 86 pitches, and he came out with a smile on his face, even though he knew that Justin Brule was coming in next. And it was a 1-run game, which means he basically knew I'm not getting the win in this game because Justin Brule ain't going to hold his lead. And theoretically could have gone another inning at 86 pitches. Kershaw, I'm sure even with it only being a second star off the injured list, I'm sure he could go 100 pitches if they needed him to. And there have been times in the past when the Kershaw we saw in the past would have not, he wouldn't have thrown his manager under the bus, but he wouldn't have had the smile on his face when he left the game under these circumstances. And instead it's like, yeah, this was just a step along the way to October. And because maybe it's just because he's done everything you can do in the regular season too, And so really what he wants is another World Series title, and everything is just focused on that.
Yeah. One way the Dodgers can get that is getting some production from everyone in their lineup, which they haven't necessarily been getting so far. We'll get into that and kind of what this last month is representing and what Dave Roberts has in mind, kind of similar to what we've been talking about First, let's get into some Blue Chew. Summer's winding down, the nights are getting longer, but the breeze isn't the only thing that's getting stiff. That's right, this episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. We all know confidence can take you far in life. We've seen it on the baseball field, and some people can see it in the bedroom. That's especially true when it comes to that. And Blue Chew can come in and help you step up to the plate. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. It's a simple process. You go to bluechew.com, you sign up, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and are prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. The best part, it's all done online. No awkward doctor office visits, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy, none of that stuff. You just get it directly to you. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code Locked On at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code Locked On, and receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. Yeah, thank you, Blue Chew. All right, Jeff. So we've talked a lot about Cody Bellinger. We've talked about Chris Taylor. We've talked about where the Dodgers stand on them, where things stand for them. And, Dave Roberts has had some comments over the last couple of days, kind of where they are at on that. And, after Tuesday night's game, he talked about Joey Gallo and Trayce Thompson and their playoff roles. He said, when the time comes, they'll start the players who are performing the best, which we've talked about here. He said, quote, it's my job to continue to run guys out there, give them opportunities. And at some point, we got to make a decision. So we're not there yet. And then he talked about the same thing with Taylor and Bellinger and different ways they've tried to get them going and reset and everything else. And, Dave Roberts said, quote, I think the reset window has passed. So it really is a matter of they're still going to get chances over this last month, but they don't necessarily have the, last year, as long as they were healthy, they were going to play because they didn't have enough guys. You weren't going to start Billy McKinney or Steven Souza if you didn't have to. This year, they have those guys, and Joey Gallo, who did exit Wednesday's game after getting hit by a pitch, but more precautionary than anything, no fractures in the x-rays, everything good. They do have Trayce Thompson. They do have guys that can move around. And, yeah, Jeff, I don't know. He's not really saying that they're not going to be on the roster, but he's not saying that they're not. He's kind of saying that they're not going to play if they don't deserve it. And it really is down to this last month of the season to figure out where the center field and left field, who's going to play those positions, because every other position is pretty much locked up.
Yeah, he's saying that they aren't going to play unless they deserve to. Last year you mentioned Cody Bellinger's OPS the last 40 games of last year was 379. That's an OPS. That's not even that would be bad even if it was just the slugging percentage. It's both. Chris Taylor's OPS was 538 over his last 46 games. Both of them were very bad to end last season. And like you said, neither of them would have been starting in the postseason if they had had better options. But they had Billy McKinney and Steven Souza Jr. and Matt Beatty and Albert Pujols. That was their bench in the postseason last year. And this year they've got better options. And that means that these guys need to perform in September. Even last year, Chris Taylor had that huge walk-off home run in the wild card game. What it's easy to forget is that he didn't start that game because he didn't deserve to start that game. He came in later. I don't even remember who did start, but I assume he came in to pinch hit against a left-handed reliever and then ended up getting the big walk-off home run. But it was with Trayce Thompson and Joey Gallo and Miguel Vargas and, Gavin Lux coming back. That right now they can give a little bit more playing time because they can stick Chris Taylor at second base. When Gavin Lux neck is feeling better in the next week or so, hopefully, that is even going to go away. And so it's going to be hard for them to get playing time because, like Dave Roberts pointed out, the other guys need playing time too. Trayce Thompson needs playing time. Joey Gallo definitely needs playing time because they're still trying to figure out what he's going to bring. Trayce Thompson is kind of a known quantity at this point. Trayce Thompson is absolutely going to be on the postseason roster. It's just a question of whether he's going to be starting or not, and he is ready to go. And he's shown that he can continue to perform, even just getting a start here and there, pinch hitting appearance here and there. But Miguel Vargas needs at bats so they can continue his development and see if he could contribute to the team in October. And so while I've said all along that I'm in favor of them giving Taylor and Bellinger every chance to get right, uh, you know, that doesn't mean at the expense of everybody else. And, so far this season, it's not like they've been taking playing time from guys who deserved it more, at least to the detriment of the team. But now we do kind of have these last, what are we at now? 26 games left. We got 4 weeks left to figure out, okay, who is going to help us win in October? And like Robert said, there's no more time for a reset. It's time to just start hitting. And we don't know, none of us know why Chris Taylor and Cody Bellinger are so bad right now. And despite everybody has a theory, everybody wants to, I see it all the time. Cody Bellinger needs to stop swinging for the fences, or he needs to just do that stance that Jerry Hairston said. I really don't think it's that simple. I think Cody Bellinger really wants to be successful, and for whatever reason hasn't been able to do it yet. Chris Taylor, I'm sure, wants to hit the ball when he swings at it. He just doesn't. And so, but they're going to have to do it. And it really is, Robert's talked about it with Kimbrel, that it needs to be a meritocracy. Who's going to be the closer in October? And it's the same with who's playing in the outfield or the infield or whatever. It's got to be the guys who give the Dodgers the best chance to win once the games start mattering again.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because, like we mentioned last year, they played just because there was nobody better. And those two guys ended up being some of the better postseason performers for the Dodgers. Chris Taylor had the big walk-off home run. He had the 3 home run game in the NLCS. Bellinger had the game-winning hit in the NLDS. He had the go-ahead home run or game-tying home run, whatever, game-tying home run in the NLCS against Samperio. So, those guys came through, and they've come through in the past, even if they've struggled in varying aspects in October. But it's one of those where, you're playing to win a World Series, and we've gotten on Dave Roberts for banking on players before, or, trusting in players maybe a little bit too much, or trying to fill some narratives or trying to fix some narratives about guys and maybe using them in spots that they didn't deserve to. And this would be one where, Trayce Thompson is playing better. Joey Gallo, while he's not lighting the world on fire, he is playing better than Cody Bellinger is currently. Trayce Thompson is playing better than Chris Taylor is at this present time. And, unless it's a left-hander on the mound, and even then Gallo, who did hit a home run against lefty and has hit them decently in the past. But it's a matter of, what you got to think about Dave Roberts. You're thinking about, okay, these two guys sucked last year too, and then they went off in the postseason. But realistically, we have better options at this point, and those guys deserve to play, even if they don't necessarily have the postseason credits to their name or anything like that. But you can't just bank on, it's October, they're going to turn it on. Well, that might still happen, but you can't bank on it. And with the rest of the lineup performing well, it's one of those, like you said, they do have this last month to audition center field and left field. Every other spot's filled. Max Muncy's back to hitting. Justin Turner's back to hitting. Every other spot was already good the entire year. Assuming Gavin Lux's neck thing doesn't turn into anything worse, every spot is covered except center and left field. And we're probably going to see guys rotate over those spots over the next few weeks, maybe even get some at-bats at DH to get some extra at-bats. And it's really going to be a spring training-esque battle. But except this time, the winning prize isn't opening day roster. It's the October roster, or starting in October.
Yeah. And one other thing that Bellinger and Taylor both have working against them compared to last year is last year they were head and shoulders above the other options defensively. Even if you take away the offense, Steven Souza probably could have hit as well as either of them hit the last couple months of the season. But he wasn't the defender that either of them were. But now, Gallo has won 2 Gold Glove awards. He is a solid left fielder. Trayce Thompson can hold down left field, can hold down center field. They're not losing as much defensively by sitting those guys, which means, Cody Bellinger the last few years has, we've joked about how funny it is that the guy who hit, 1 Rookie of the Year and 1 MVP based on hitting home runs is now a guy who's only in the lineup because he still plays good defense. But even that's not going to get him into the postseason starting lineup anymore because they've got other options defensively too.
Yeah. And like as we say a lot on this podcast, and mostly because that's what it comes down to, we'll see what happens. And ultimately, this is a we'll see what happens type of thing. All right. Magic numbers. The Dodgers won and dropped their magic number to 6. But do you really know what magic number means? Maybe not everybody does. There's a lot of different magic numbers the Dodgers have currently in order to clinch some things coming into the end of the season. So we have our resident statistician and stat expert and everything else expert, Jeff Snider. He's going to come through with some magic number talk. But real quick, want to thank you and remind you to make Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts in order to not miss a day, because we're not going to miss a day. All right, Jeff. So, like I said, Dodgers magic number is 6. That's to win the division. There are a few other magic numbers out there in order to clinch different things. And I know that you have some stuff primed up ready to talk about magic numbers. So I'm going to cede the segment, or the majority of this segment, to you.
Yeah. So my sister, who listens to this podcast regularly, hi Joy. She and her 1-year-old son Donovan listen to us all the time. Hey Donovan, I love you, buddy. All right, got that out of the way. She texted me on Wednesday night asking about magic numbers, and she just didn't totally understand how they worked. And I thought, you know what, there might be other people. We are all baseball fans have heard the term magic number, but do you really know what they are, how they're calculated, why they matter? And so I thought this would be a fun way to explain magic numbers while also kind of underscoring just how good a shape the Dodgers are in. So every team has a magic number. On opening day, every team's magic number is 163, because basically it's how many games do uh, the combination of my team winning and the team chasing me losing, in order for me to finish ahead of that team. And so on opening day, if I go 162-0, and let's just use the Dodgers and Padres for example. If the Dodgers go 162-0 and the Padres go 161-1, the Dodgers win the division, because they got to that magic 163 number. 162 wins for the Dodgers, 1 loss for the Padres. Usually, it isn't quite that extreme. Teams usually don't go 162-0. Even the 1972 Dolphins couldn't do that. So realistically, but that's how you calculate it. You start from 163, and then it's combination of your team's wins and the other team's losses. So right now, the Dodgers are 94-42, and the Padres are 76-62. So you start with 163, and you subtract 94 from that, because that's the Dodgers wins, and you subtract 62 from that, and that's the Padres losses, and you get to 7, which would mean the Dodgers magic number would be 7. Now, in this case, it's actually 6, because starting this year, there's no longer a game 163. If two teams end up tied at the end of the season, they just do a mathematical tiebreaker. There is no on-field tiebreaker. And the first tiebreaker is if the teams have played each other this season, who won the season series. So because the Dodgers beat the Padres in their season series, they don't have to get to that 163. They only need to get to 162, because if they end up with the same record as each other, the Dodgers win because of winning the season series. So instead of starting for 160, 162 to account for the tiebreaker. So that means the Dodgers magic number over the Padres is 6 right now. Now, the interesting thing is the Padres still have a magic number too. We only ever talk about magic numbers in the context of the first place team, because that's who it really matters for. But when you look at it from the second place team's point of view, you can it kind of underscores just how big a gap is. You can start to think, with the Padres now, a magic number of 6 with 26 games to play. Yeah, it's not hard at all. If the Dodgers go 6-20 the rest of the way, they will win the division, even if the Padres go undefeated. That sounds pretty safe. But you can look at it even another way. The Dodgers magic number is 6. The Padres magic number right now is 45. The Padres need some combination of Dodgers losses and Padres wins to add up to 45. which means if the Dodgers go 0-26, the Padres would still have to go. Let's see, they have 24 games left. If the Dodgers go 0-26, the Padres still have to go 19-5 in order to win the division. So that's why we've been saying for weeks now the Dodgers have won the division, because realistically it's not going to happen. It will become a technical or a mathematical fact probably early next week when the Dodgers magic number gets down to 0. Now there's a couple other magic numbers that you could look at. Their magic number to win the NL West is 6. To make the postseason, then we got to compare them with the Brewers, because the Brewers are the first team on the outside looking in on the wild card race right now. They're in 4th place for the 3 wild card spots. So as long as the Dodgers finish with a better record than the Brewers, they will at least, worst case scenario, get a wild card spot. So again, you start with 163, except because the Dodgers won the season series with the Brewers, you start with 162, and you subtract the Dodgers wins and the Brewers losses. Dodgers magic number to clinch a playoff spot is 3, which means that will almost definitely happen this weekend. What about for the best record in the National League? That we compare them to the Mets. The Mets are half a game ahead of the Braves right now for the best record in the National League. So because the Mets beat the Dodgers in the season series, we have to start from 163 instead of 162. 163 minus the Dodgers wins minus the Mets losses, and that gives you a magic number to have a better record than the Mets of 18. 18 can sound a little daunting because there's only 26 games left. And so like your brain sometimes wants to think, crap, we have to go 18 and 8 just to finish ahead of the Mets. No, because it's any combination of Dodgers wins and Mets losses. So if the Dodgers were to go 18 and 8, the Mets could go undefeated and still not end up with a better record than the Dodgers. That's where that comes in. So, and that's where it's kind of fun to look at, well, then what's the Mets magic number to finish with the best record in baseball? Their best record in the National League. Their magic number is 34. So the Dodgers magic number 18, the Mets magic number is 34, which means that if the Dodgers were to go 0-26, the Mets would still have to win 8 of their own games in order to finish ahead of the Dodgers. So best record in the National League is almost guaranteed at this point, simply because, that magic number, it's going to be hard not to get those 18s between Dodgers wins and Mets losses. Finally, we're looking at the best record in baseball. Right now, the Astros have the second best record in baseball. And the Dodgers magic number, start with 163. And there's a little caveat here that I'll explain in a minute, but we'll start with 163, subtract Dodgers wins, subtract Astros losses. Magic number is 20. The Astros magic number to finish with the best record in baseball is 33. So again, 13 game difference there for the Astros to finish with the best record in baseball. And so the Dodgers' chances of finishing with the best record in baseball is very, very good. If the Dodgers go 20-6, there's nothing the Astros can do to catch them. If the Dodgers play 500 ball, the Astros still have to have a very, very good record. Only 6 losses in order to pass them. So Dodgers are in very good shape. One last caveat about the Astros, because the Dodgers and Astros didn't play each other this year, if they were to finish with the same record in the regular season and then meet up in the World Series, the tiebreaker would be their record against intra-division opponents, meaning Dodgers record against in the National League West versus Astros record in the American League West. Excuse me, I got to cough really quick. I can feel that bubbling up in my throat. And so it's kind of a weird second tiebreaker, but it would be, how did the Dodgers do against the NL West versus how did the Astros do in the AL West? And we won't know the answer to that for a while, because the Astros only have 7 games left against the AL West. The Dodgers have 23 left against the NL West. Everything the rest of the way, except for their series against the Cardinals, is against the NL West. And so right now, the Dodgers have the advantage. They have a .679 winning percentage in the NL West. Astros have a .662 winning percentage in the AL West, but they still have a lot of games to play. So if it comes down to the tiebreaker, which it probably won't because the Dodgers are in good shape, we won't know the answer to that for a little while. So that's magic numbers, and that's why we start talking about magic numbers, because it really gives you a good idea of what needs to happen over these last few games in order for the Dodgers to win the division or clinch the best record in baseball or whatever it is. And yeah, it's a fun little thing. And I encourage you one of these seasons to start from day one. Opening day, magic number is 163, and just keep on doing it. Announce it every single day. Your friends at parties will love that. It's a great little math trick, and people love math tricks at parties.
Yeah, people always love math tricks at parties. Yeah, all that means is that this weekend the Dodgers could clinch the division in San Diego, which would be kind of fun. We'll
Yeah, if they
see.
sweep the Padres, then they win the division.
Yeah, and we'll see what the celebration looks like, and we'll definitely have thoughts about it, probably based off other people's thoughts more so than our own thoughts, since we're all in favor of celebrating the accomplishments you have in a 162 game season. So, Jeff, you got anything else for us today?
No, there's always good stuff. We got a day off tomorrow, so probably a mailbag episode tomorrow. So shoot us your questions.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot us those questions. You can shoot them to us in a variety of ways, which I'll give you. But first, I want to thank you and remind you to make Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. And for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022. The pro football season starts tonight, Thursday night. The reigning champions of Los Angeles are playing. So if you're a fan of that team, go check it out. It's an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for NFL season. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combined to make one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. If you're on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts, you can also search for Locked On Dodgers and subscribe. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vince Samperio. DMs are open, or you can just tweet at us if you have any questions for tomorrow's episode. You can also send them via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a text or leave us a voicemail at 323-863-LOCK. That's 5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. To your smart device, play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.